Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Truth TV show on Tremmbit Online TV. My name is Max Olobin. Now, this is the official production that we are coming your way this year. And it has been so because, yes, we're working on other production, a movie production titled Fate or Fantasy. So if we are following the uploads, you realize that we're informing you of a movie series that we're working on. So that took us a long break for us to put together, which is still underway. So as and when it's ready, we are definitely going to let you guys know about it. So where are we picking it from after this long break? Well, we are picking up from an area which is very, very important when it comes to its impact and role it plays in individuals. I mean, before that, when we talk about socialization, or from a socialization point of view, you realize that people are socially oriented based on the kind of information that they receive. So you can look at agents of socialization, that is the family. So we are told that the family is the first call of socialization because it is in the family that the child or the individual is going to receive some of the basic ethics, morals, and all of that. So from the family, you can move on to the peer group, where the child gets to associate with people, gets to roll with people that he may call friends, people that he may talk to, and all that. So from the peer group, then you may have religion, which is also an avenue where people are given a certain kind of mindset and attitude. And then later, we may pick it up on religion and then have a discussion on that, because religion also has its own way of giving people a certain kind of mindset. For example, you have religious people who just sit in their homes or in church and then be calling forth money. Money come. Where did they get this kind of mindset from? It's because of the avenue that has been created, and then the fact that they get a chance to be given information. Then you can also talk about the schools, where we also get information from, we get education from. So we would want to find out specifically on today's discussion the kind of education we receive from the schools, if we are really being well informed, or we are being misinformed, or we are being misguided, or we are being guided. That is what we are going to discuss today. So today's discussion is going to be very enlightening, it's going to be illuminating, it's going to be edifying, it's going to be compelling and challenging. Challenging in the sense that it is going to conflict with the ideologies and philosophies that you may have received long before this video. So you may not want to be stereotyped, you may want to be flexible and have the ability to unlearn, to relearn, because you are going to come in contact with different information which is rooted in evidence and facts. So if you are one that can accept fact over what you have been told or what you have believed over the years, then this is the right channel for you. So the Truth TV show over here, evidence is the rule of the game, and we present to you nothing but the truth. I'd like to introduce the polymath Godfrey Asamoah, who is the CEO of Tremmbit Consult, and interestingly, he's also an educator. So polymath, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
I hope you are doing well, sir.
Yes, I'm very fine. I hope you're also doing well.
I'm doing great, sir.
Yes, it's been a while. I mean, 2021, we haven't really met to have this show, but I think our viewers should be happy that we are back.
Yeah.
And we are back for good, and we're going to bring them very interesting discussions, I think. So I'm happy to be back on the show, the TV show, and I trust that today's topic is going to be very interesting and enlightening and educative, and of course challenging, as you rightly indicated.
Okay. And I must say that I want to express how excited I am moving into this discussion, because of how you are particularly interested in the matter of education. So I want to ask this question. Now, when we look at the various agents of socialization, you can see forms of education going on in there and all that. And today's discussion is going to be centered on the kind of education that we receive from the schools and what actually we learn from that. So to kickstart, I just want to find out, and I just want to give a quote from Einstein, where Einstein at a certain point in time said that the only thing interfering with his learning is his education. So I want to find out, is there a distinction between education and learning?
Well, that is a very good question, And of course, considering the fact that it came from a very influential person in history, those of us who study natural science know well about Albert Einstein and his contributions to science and human development. Albert Einstein is deemed as the greatest scientist ever, in the history of the planet. And he is believed to have been the human being who used about 6% of his brain capacity. So if Albert Einstein was able to reckon the distinction between education and learning, then he's right. And of course, there is a difference between learning and education. Learning is supposed to be a process by which individuals, groups, organizations, and even nations are able to access information, process them, and then make effective decisions on the basis of the information they have processed. Now, learning is not supposed to be limited by, structures or time or age or any forms of barriers. Learning is something that should be accessible to anybody who is serious and passionate about getting the right information. But it turns out that education is quite different. Education, especially what we call formal education, is that kind of system which has sought over the years to institutionalize learning by confining learning to certain structures like classrooms and lecture halls, and that kind of system also operates in a way whereby you have an instructor, a teacher or a lecturer or a tutor, however you call the person, who now normally stands before students and then uses a particular kind of pedagogy to transfer and transmit information and knowledge. Okay, so that's education. So in the formal education system, yes, it's basically about transfer of information or access to information. But over here, the system has been institutionalized and structured in such a way that the students are deemed as those who are inferior when it comes to knowledge, and then the teacher or the tutor is considered to be the authority, in quote, or the expert. So the students are supposed to be listening to the authority and learning from the authority. And it turns out that in most jurisdictions of formal education, the students have been so much restricted to the point that they cannot know anything beyond what their teacher or instructor has taught them. That's perhaps one of the most fundamental problems with the formal education system. And that's why I think that today's topic is very critical. Gaps in Ghana's tertiary education system and industry perspective. Yeah. I think that topic is very important because at the end of the day, it's really going to help our audience and everyone watching really appreciate some of the challenges and the loopholes and the lacunas in Ghana's tertiary education system and how we could possibly resolve some of these problems, especially from the perspective of industry people. Yeah. Yes. So I think that is what I would say to your question.
Okay. Yes, like you rightly indicated, that the topic today is very, very huge, and you're also an industry person, so you can give a two-edged approach towards the whole situation, because you're an industry person, you're also an academician, and also an educator. Now, with the difference that you have established between education and learning, can we have situations where you have unlearned educators? That means that people who go through the educational or tertiary system but graduate unlearned, and then you have people who have never been through that system but are learned. Can there be situations like that?
Why not? Exactly. I mean, let me give some typical example. Let's take a man like William Bill Gates of Microsoft. Now, reading his story, you realize that he had to drop out of Harvard Business School in order to pursue the Microsoft vision. Bill Gates' passion and goal at that tender age was to get a computer with a Microsoft operating system functioning on it in every home in the world. 15 to 20 years down the line, he was able to achieve that, and he became one of the richest people.
Yeah.
I think today he's the fourth richest person on the face of the planet. Okay, so Bill Gates is one of the most successful entrepreneurs, okay, in the world, who actually, I think I respect him so much because he also actually led a revolution at a time where he had no reference point. At the time that Bill Gates was conceiving the Microsoft concept, he didn't have anybody as a point of reference, any other existing company to refer to. So what he brought on board, we'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah,
what he brought about was purely called innovation. Okay, something that was entirely new at the time.
Yeah.
Of course, today we have people like Larry Page who have been able to do something as very unique, like Google. Okay, but if you look at Microsoft and Google carefully, you see that Google actually drew some form of inspiration also from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Basically, what Google is doing right now, apart from its search engine, many of the things that Google is doing right now on Google Workspace, okay, is basically what Microsoft is doing in the internet space. That's basically what Google is doing. So Google just carved a niche for itself by deciding to take what Microsoft was hitherto doing offline to the online environment. You understand?
Yeah.
So in a sense, somebody like William Bill Gates is a great guy that we have to respect. Now, why am I citing Bill Gates? Okay, so Bill Gates, the question is Bill Gates learned? Yes. Is he educated? Okay, so we have to look at that question. So today, Bill Gates is one guy who is invited to give lectures, okay, to professors and academics. In Harvard Business School, he speaks to a lot of people, world leaders, presidents of nations, okay, who have attended some of the best schools in the world. These are highly educated people. But it is obvious that Bill Gates is more learned than them, even though many of them may be more educated than him. But when it comes to that field, okay, of what Microsoft stands for, okay, Bill Gates is very learned, and it turns out that over the years he has even studied them all. If you go to the Microsoft website today, you will see that they have increased the scope of their products. Okay, now they have products that can help you. Most of them are server based, and they can help you do a lot of things, including artificial intelligence, data mining and big data analytics. Okay, so Microsoft is a learning organization. Okay, it's dynamic, so they are aware of the contemporary trends, and then they are able to adjust themselves and then come up with the tools that can help the industry to succeed. I can actually say that William Bill Gates is even one of the guys who is several years ahead of the generation. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So in 1994, William Bill Gates said it publicly that banking is necessary, banks are not. And that stirred up a lot of controversy. People were wondering what is in the head of William Gates. What does he mean by that? Today, it turns out, 27 years down the line, it turns out that Bill Gates was right. That what was he talking about? He was talking about today what we call the digital transformation, whereby we can actually engage in the business of banking without necessarily physically visiting banks. So today, innovations like mobile money and what we call fintech, financial technologies generally, are evidence that Bill Gates was right. That banking, we could bank without going to banks. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
So the question is, would you say Mr. William Bill Gates is unlearned? No, he's not. He's highly learned and much advanced, but is he highly educated? No. So he's not a professor. If you talk about higher education, the highest point, the epitome, is to become a professor. But it is obvious that if you are really talking about the professor, as far as creativity and innovation in our century is concerned, you cannot leave out William Bill Gates. So your question is very serious, because it is clear that there are educated, unlearned people, and then there are also learned, uneducated people. So Bill Gates may be a typical example of a learned, uneducated person, because his education, formal education, is not so high. He doesn't have a PhD. He's not a professor. But there is also a chunk of educated, unlearned people. Some of them call themselves professors and doctors, sitting in other academies, who don't know anything. They are professors who teach IT, okay, who don't know anything, who cannot do 1% of what William Bill Gates can do.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. So the question is, if these educated, unlearned folks are teaching you IT, what will happen to you?